Hello, fight fans. Welcome to my new podcast, BreBre Talks MMA. I am your host, BreBre. I am so excited. So, for those of you who don't know, or for those of you who are coming here, maybe not from my original podcast, maybe you just found this, I have another podcast, and it's called Barbells and Bangers. And that podcast, I originally had started it because I wanted to talk about fitness, I wanted to talk about music, I wanted to talk about MMA, I wanted to talk about mental health. Just basically, I wanted to talk about all the different things that I'm passionate about and put them all together in one podcast. And it's been awesome. It's been a great experience. And I also just wanted to see kind of if I would like podcasting because I had never tried it before. So I was like, well, I don't want to get too, hyper focused on one thing with my first podcast. I want to just kind of leave it open and let it evolve organically and just see what happens. What I realized is that half of the podcast was just like me recapping fights and talking about MMA, talking about all different combat sports. So I was like, I'm going to have to turn this into a whole podcast by itself because every week I noticed that like it kept getting like a little bit longer and a little bit longer. And then I would like look at the clock when I was recording and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's already been 30 minutes and I haven't even talked about fitness yet. So I was like, yeah, I need to start a new podcast. I need to give this its own home. So that's what I did. I decided to start an MMA podcast and I want to talk about MMA. So that's what I did. So here we are. But I'm going to talk about fights. I'm going to talk about, it's not just going to be like breaking down the fights. It's not just going to be like that. Like I also want to talk about like the business side of things. I want to talk about some local promotions, some regional promotions. I want to talk about MMA, boxing, kickboxing, all types of combat sports. So it's going to just be kind of my little space to talk about combat sports and what I'm excited about in the world of MMA, in the world of boxing, in the world of kickboxing. So that's basically what it's going to be. I am going to cover some local promotions. So like next weekend, I am going to the IKF Midwest Kickboxing Tournament in St. Louis, and I'm going to cover that. So there will be some local promotions that I'm going to cover as much as I can. And then, of course, I'm going to cover UFC, and I'm also going to cover bare knuckle, PFL, LFA, as much as I possibly can. But anyways, welcome to BreBre Talks MMA. I'm so glad that you guys are here. I'm so glad that you clicked on this and you're listening to it or watching it. Let's freaking go. And speaking of go, I've got some Jocko Go that I'm drinking right now. And this is a new partnership. So I am now affiliated with Jocko Fuel, which is awesome because not only do they have energy drinks, but they also have supplements. So they have protein powders, creatine, all that good stuff. They also have like some other types of supplements like krill oil and things like that are more like health supplements rather than fitness. So they pretty much have a wide variety of products, which is why I chose them. They have good ingredients. They don't put a bunch of sugar or a bunch of, crazy stuff in their in their protein powders. It's grass-fed whey. And then these energy drinks, they're really good and they don't have any sugar. They're sweetened with monk fruit. So I think that's really cool. And I think it has 95 milligrams of caffeine, I believe. 95 milligrams caffeine. So not too much caffeine to where you feel like you're cracked out of your mind, but just enough to get you going, So use my code BreBre at checkout and you will get 10% off all the Jocko Fuel products that you want to buy. So thank you for supporting me if you do that. But yeah, I love their products anyway. So, and that's the thing, like I wanted to kind of wait to pick a supplement company before I didn't want to do it right away when I first started my other podcast or when I first started my YouTube channel. I wanted to wait and try a bunch of different supplements to find one that I really, really like and feel like that I can represent. So that's why I picked them. It took me a while, but I finally found a home. I finally found a supplement company that I want to represent. So I'm excited about that. But anyways, let's get into it. So let's talk about UFC. Let's talk about that first. So This weekend we had a fight night. Wasn't a pay-per-view, wasn't a big fight night, I will say that. Not what you typically see as a main event. But I'm glad that they did that, actually. I was thinking about this. I'm like, I'm glad that they did a women's strawweight as a main event. Because the thing is like, yeah, a lot of people might not get excited. They see Dern versus Hill as a main event. They're like, whatever. But both of those girls, I mean, they put it all out there. And it was an entertaining fight. So I'm glad that they did that, because now people will probably see that and think, oh, why haven't I been watching women's fights? Women's fights are bangers, okay? Like, the women's fights are so fun to watch because they're so small and tiny. And it's so fast-paced sometimes. And, like, Angela Hill, like, oh, my gosh, she is so tough. She really has no quit. Like, I knew that as soon as I saw, like, a couple times that she was kind of in a tricky situation where she could have gotten submitted and she got out of it. I'm like, dang, she's a freaking dog. I'm like, she is not. I'm like, there's no way she's going to get finished in this fight. I know she's not, because that was Dern's opportunity to finish her and she couldn't get finished. So she's going to have to tough it out all these 5 rounds. And I thought that was great. So I'm glad they did that main event. I'm glad they did it. And I know a lot of people really didn't like it. And at first I was kind of confused too. I was like, wait, this is a main event? But then I thought about it. I'm like, there's been way worse main events than that. Like, as far as names go. Yeah, and at least it was an entertaining fight, As many events as the UFC puts on, I can imagine it being pretty hard for every single one to be like a big name, or just, I don't know. There's so many fighters now. That's the thing. And they're doing events almost every single week, which is wild. But let's talk about the other fights. So the first fight that I want to talk about, I'm going to pull up the results here so that way I've got it in front of me. I want to talk about the Chase Hooper fight. And Chase Hooper is somebody I've been following for a long time, because when he came to the UFC, I can't remember. I think he was a Contender Series fighter. I'm pretty sure he was. When he came to the UFC, he was pretty big hype train, which, that's always hit or miss. It's like you really never know what's going to happen with these guys that come out of the Contender Series, or they come from another promotion and they're all hyped up. Sometimes they do really well. Sometimes they do well the first couple fights and then they fall on their face, which is kind of what happened to him a little bit. But I was glad to see that he got the win. And it was interesting seeing him at lightweight, because I'm pretty sure, yeah, he was at featherweight. So this was his lightweight debut. At 145, even there, he was like super like tall for that division, like just long, lean, skinny little thing. I mean, he looked tiny. Tall, but like looked super skinny. And you got to wonder how that kind of a weight cut affects, their ability to maintain their cardio, maintain getting hit. So I feel like maybe moving up a weight class was the right decision for him. You know what else I noticed about him? His striking has improved quite a bit. I never really paid much attention to his striking because it just wasn't really up to par. I guess like at least the first couple fights I watched of his striking just, it seemed like it was a little behind. As far as like considering his grappling skills compared to his strike, like his grappling skills were here and his striking skills were like down here. But now I feel like he's pretty well rounded. He's also got really good jiu-jitsu, which I didn't realize this, but he's already a black belt in jiu-jitsu, which at 23, that's pretty impressive. So he's a really young kid and he's winning now, and he's got a lot going for him. So I'm excited. Also Natalia Silva won. She knocked out Leonardo in the first round. So that was pretty cool. But I'm looking at the odds here. She was a minus 900 favorite. So that's interesting. I don't really know much about her opponents. Just her opponent now is 9-6, and what's Silva's record? 14-5. Okay. Interesting. But yeah, that was obviously a quick fight, so not much to say about that. And then the heavyweight fight, split decision. I don't know. I'll have to watch that one again because I don't remember I don't remember who I thought won. I probably didn't really care like who they gave the decision to in that fight. I don't know. I don't remember. Anytime I see a split decision, though, it always makes me wonder what the judges were doing. And then Borshev. And I just saw he got performance of the night. I was going to say, if he doesn't get performance of the night, that's crazy. So he knocked out his opponent in, second round? Yeah. Halfway through the second round. That guy has crazy power. Crazy power. He was cracking that guy. Borshev is freaking, yeah, he's good. He's really good. I'm really excited. So that was a lightweight fight. I'm going to take a look at Borshev's record. So he's 7-3. Let me see his fights before this. So his fight before that, he lost by decision. He lost to Mark Jacasey by decision before that. I don't remember that fight. Oh, he beat Dakota Bush. And that was in 2022, so that was last year. So he's had 4 fights in the UFC. So he's 2-2 in the UFC so far. But the only losses that he has are by decision, and both of his wins are by knockout in the UFC. So that's interesting. I'll have to see how he does. I'll have to keep an eye on him and just see how he does. But I was impressed. I was impressed with his power. Just his power alone was crazy power. Moving on to the main card. Diego Ferreira. Now, it's been a while, I feel like, since I've watched Diego. I'm going to see when his last fight was. Because I feel like, yeah, his last fight was Gamrot in 2021. So it had been, I knew it had been a while. It's been over a year since he fought. And then before that, he got knocked out by Gillespie. And then before that, he got beat by Dariush. Interesting. Yeah, but that is one of the worst knockouts I've ever seen. And I love Michael Johnson. Michael Johnson's from St. Louis, and I'm from St. Louis. So, of course, going to root for my hometown guy. But here's the thing. Michael Johnson was doing really well up until that point. And that just goes to show, like, when your chin is gone, there's really not much you can do. Because that shot that Ferreira threw at him, that punch, I don't know of hardly anybody that would have been able to take that and be okay. They would have at least gotten knocked down for sure. I mean, he hit him perfectly. So, yeah, but that sucks for Michael Johnson, because here's the thing about Michael Johnson. He's fought everyone in that division. Everyone. Justin Gaethje, Khabib Nurmagomedov, Dustin Poirier, Nate Diaz, Beneil Dariush, Edson Barboza, Gleison Tebow, Joe Lazon. Oh my God. Joe Lazon might be, he's got to be in like my top 10 favorite fighters of all time. Joe Lazon put on some of the most entertaining fights you will ever see. And was just like such an unsuspecting guy. Like you look at him and you're like, huh? And he's so quiet. Like he's so like chill, quiet. And then you see him fight and you're like, oh my God, that guy's a monster. So yeah, I saw the name Joe Lazon and I got excited. I'm like, I miss Joe Lazon. But I think When's the last time he fought? Joe Lazon. Last time he fought was in 2019. Okay, so it's been a hot minute. But yeah, you get the picture. Tony Ferguson, that's another one who Michael Johnson actually beat. Michael Johnson beat Tony Ferguson, and he beat Dustin Poirier. He actually knocked out Dustin Poirier in the first round in 2016. So let's not forget who Michael Johnson is. But yeah, it is kind of frustrating seeing him get knocked out like that. And he's not really somebody that gets knocked out very often. Because let's see, yeah, he's only been knocked out 3 times, and he's got 40 fights, so keep in mind that that's a lot of fights. And to only be knocked out 3 times in those, so it's not like he's getting knocked out all the time. But you see that type of a knockout, and that's like a career-changing knockout. Like, that could be a career-ending knockout for him. Hopefully not, but I don't know. Maybe at this point should think about going to another promotion, or I don't know, just what can you do? Because I just haven't seen a lot of guys later in their career get knocked out like that and come back from it and do really well. So I don't know, it's tough. That's just tough to watch, because I have a lot of respect for Michael Johnson. Like I said, he's fought everyone, but I don't want to see him get knocked out again like that. I mean, it's just not fun to watch as a fan. As a fan of these fighters, you really don't like to see that. So we'll see what happens. I mean, he's not that old. How old is he? 36. So he's still got a little bit of time. I mean, he could retire now, but I don't know. I don't know what he'll do. We'll see. We'll see what happens, but that was a great performance by Fajeda. That was, brutal knockout. Next fight, Joaquin Buckley, another St. Louis favorite. So Joaquin Buckley ended up knocking out Andre Fiallo in the second round, 4 minutes, 15 seconds in the second round. And yeah, he's got really powerful kicks. He's also got pretty good boxing, but it is definitely his kicks that he seems to have more success with, I guess, is just his kickboxing in general. I'm glad that he moved down to 170, because his height was a little small for 185 in my opinion. I mean, it just, you could definitely see the difference. Like, if he were to continue in 185, and let's say he kept winning, eventually he was going to get to the point where the size difference was just, it's just going to be too much. So I'm glad he moved down. I think that was a really smart move on his part. And you know who else moved down to 170? Kelvin Gastelum. I heard somewhere. Maybe I should fact check this. Oh, yeah, here we go. UFC's Kelvin Gastelum moving back to welterweight. This is a renaissance in my career. I hope so. I love Kelvin Gastelum. You guys already know that. He's going to be more disciplined. Oh, here's what he said. Why this time and why now and not before? It's like I said, this is a second chance. This is a renaissance in my career. This is a rebirth. Before I was young and dumb. I was stupid and undisciplined. Now that I'm older, hopefully I'll be a little bit more mature and smarter, hopefully. Okay, he said hopefully twice, so that's not a good sign. But, yeah, hopefully you do get a little bit more discipline. Everybody knows this has always been my weight class to go to, but it really just takes me to decide that I want to do it, and now I've decided that I want to do it, and I'm going to do it. Okay. Oh, yeah, he made the announcement on his Instagram. I remember that. Or not on his Instagram, on his Twitter, whatever it's called. I don't know. Same thing. Yeah. He's only fought at welterweight once, I think. But we'll see. We'll see. Maybe Buckley versus Gastelum at 170. They could have a little party of cutting weight together. No, I'm just playing. But that actually that would be an interesting fight, because it would be southpaw versus southpaw, which is always I'm a southpaw, so watching a southpaw versus southpaw fight is always interesting to me. And they both just fought Chris Curtis before this, because before Buckley fought Fiallo, he fought Chris Curtis, and Gastelum just beat Chris Curtis in like a freaking war when they had a clash of heads too, unfortunately, in that fight. Buckley versus Gastelum at 170. I don't know. It's just an idea. I'm not a matchmaker. Probably a good thing. And then Lupi Godinez, she won by unanimous decision. She's an interesting fighter too, because this was a short notice fight. Also, and I noticed there were a lot of LFA fighters in this UFC card. So we're like people that previously fought in LFA. And she's one of them. She was actually the LFA strawweight champion. And now she's in the UFC, and looks like she's crushing it in the UFC. So, and Buckley was in LFA as well. There were a lot of fighters on that card that were previously in LFA. And that's what I said. I've said this before. Go watch LFA. I'm telling you, like, just at least look at the card every week and see who's fighting and see if it's something worth watching. Because I'm telling you, there are some freaking killers in LFA. And a lot of them go from LFA to the UFC. So the next fight was Edmund Shabazian and Anthony Hernandez. And if I'm not mistaken, Anthony Hernandez, I thought he was the guy that submitted Vieja. His nickname is Fluffy. Yeah. So Rodolfo Vieira is a ADCC champ, which, if you don't know, well, if you're an MMA fan and you don't know what the ADCC is, you should probably figure that out. But big deal for jiu-jitsu. Big, very big deal to be an ADCC champ. Huge deal. So the odds of him submitting this guy were so low. And he did it. And he's a brown belt. Anyways, I'm not going to get too into the weeds there. But I just wanted to talk about that because he just beat Edmund Shabazian. And this isn't the first time we've seen this happen to Shabazian, unfortunately. So, yeah, that sucks. Disappointing. That's another hype train. And I don't know if Shabazian was he on the Contender Series too? I feel like he was in the Contender Series. Yeah, he was. And so was Chase Hooper. But he was another one that I feel like they definitely rushed in the UFC as far as like he faced some really tough opponents. He faced Jacker Manson, I think, was like the first guy to like really derail that hype train, I remember. And I think Jacker Manson did a similar thing to him that Hernandez did. But yeah, that's tough. And I think Shabazian had just changed camps too before this fight. So I was hoping that means that he's going to win. But Anthony Hernandez is tough. I mean, that's a hard fight for anybody. So what can you do? And then let's talk about the main event. Dern versus Hill. I love Angela Hill. She's great. She just seems like such a cool person. And she's a great commentator too. Like she doesn't do commentary like during the fights, but she does like the post-fight commentary. And she's like a desk analyst, I think, and she's really good at that. So, and I think she just started doing that recently, like within the last few years. So I think that's really cool. So at least she has another job. at least if she stops fighting, because she's 38, she's not young. You know, if she were to retire now, I think it would be an appropriate time. Or if she were to retire in the near future, I think it'd be appropriate. And she even said that she's been like compared to a cowboy, like she's the female cowboy. And I could kind of get on board with that. She's a tough fight. She is not easy to put away. She's been on the wrong side of a lot of decisions too. Like there have been a lot of fights that you could have scored it for her and she did not get the decision. So she has never been knocked out. She's only lost by submission twice. So she's only been finished twice. Both of them were submission out of 28 fights. So that's pretty freaking impressive, just saying. And check this out. How many split decisions? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 split decisions on her record. And 4 of them she was on the wrong side of, unfortunately. Like the Michelle Waterson fight, I'm like, you could have easily given that to Angela Hill, I thought. And the Gedalia fight, too. She's such a good fighter. It's like there's something that she just can't figure out with some opponents. First of all, Dern has one of the most impressive jiu-jitsu resumes of any of the female fighters that I've seen. Like, go look at Mackenzie Dern's jiu-jitsu resume. It's freaking impressive. Not only that, I haven't really seen Mackenzie Dern strike like that before. And everybody was kind of making jokes because, like, she's going through a divorce right now or whatever, which that sucks. I don't know how. I wouldn't probably be able to concentrate and get ready for a fight if I was going through a divorce. Like, that's got to be tough. But so she's going through a divorce, and everybody was joking, like, the new mythical fighter post-divorce Dern or something like that. I'm like, that's funny. So maybe the divorce is like, everybody always says, like, breakups are like the forbidden pre-workout or whatever, like with bodybuilders and stuff. So, like, maybe it's like a similar thing with fighting. Like, you go through a breakup and then you just come out of it like a way better, I don't know. Whatever it is, I like it. So, yeah, but she had crazy power compared to what I've seen from her before. Obviously, somebody like Rose or even Andrade might have a little bit more power, but I was impressed. I was impressed with Hill too, though, not gonna lie. There were some times where I was like, anybody else would have gotten finished, would have gotten ground and pounded, submitted, whatever. And Hill stuck it out. She survived. And honestly, to survive in there with somebody who's not only a third degree black belt in jiu-jitsu, which is a huge deal. Not only that, she's also 8 years younger than Angela Hill. Angela Hill's 38. Mackenzie Dern is 30. So big difference there. So for Angela Hill to be able to survive that, I think was really impressive. I don't think she gets enough credit. She's a freaking dog. I love watching her fight. I'll be sad when she retires because I know that day is probably coming soon. I'm glad she didn't retire last night because I would like to see her get a win at least before she retires. So crazy that there were multiple times that she was in a very dangerous position on the ground with Mackenzie Dern. And some of those grappling exchanges were initiated by Hill, which I thought was really interesting. And another thing, and I know Angela Hill is a Muay Thai fighter, so I kind of expected her to do some work in the clinch, but her grappling in the clinch has gotten a lot better, I feel like. I don't know. I was hoping she would do a little bit more of that. I know it's not exciting to watch necessarily for a lot of people. Like, that's how Kamaru Usman beat Jorge Masvidal, was really mostly his work in the clinch, the first fight. So I feel like if Hill would have taken more of that approach, she probably could have stolen the scorecards on it if she would have kind of mixed that in a little bit more and avoided those ground exchanges with Dern. Because here's the thing. If you're on the ground with Dern, you're just not going to win. You're not going to win. There's really no point of going to the ground with Mackenzie Dern, and there's definitely no point of staying there. So as soon as it hit the ground with Dern, I was hoping that she would have just tried to get out of there as soon as possible, and she didn't. And I think that's good on one hand because it shows that she can hang with a good grappler like Dern. But also I was like, oh no. Like, I hope she doesn't get submitted. So, yeah. But good fight nonetheless. That was great fight. Very competitive. Very fast-paced. And just both fighters really showed a lot of toughness, especially Angela Hill. She just has no quit. And I think some fighters are like that, where it's like, okay, you can beat me, but you're not going to be able to finish me. I mean, that's kind of how Nate Diaz is. Like, that was his whole thing. He's like, yeah, you can beat me, but you're not going to finish me. You're going to have to fight me all night if you want to finish me. So it's like, if that fight would have gone 10 rounds, who knows? Like, who knows? Angela Hill might have still been standing there. So I don't know. It's just fun watching fighters like that, who they really just have no quit in them. It's exciting. So it'll be interesting to see what's next for Mackenzie Dern, though. I don't know. She called out Rose Namajunas and Jan. The Jan fight doesn't really make any sense to me, because I think Jan and Wiley should fight. Oh, that would be so sick if they fought in China. That would be a great pay-per-view main event, in my opinion. I mean, it's a championship fight. Why not? Go do it in China. Get some other of these Chinese fighters on the card, like Song Yadong. Yeah, let's go. Let's do it. UFC China, let's go. I am excited. So I think that is what's in store for Jan. I don't know if they're going to do it in China. That's just me getting excited. But Jan versus Wiley, that's the fight to make, in my opinion. And then Rose, will she fight Mackenzie Dern? I don't know. Rose isn't a super active fighter normally. Like, she doesn't fight all the time. So I don't know. I just don't know. I don't know if she will want to take that fight. But we'll see. I mean, I think it would be a good fight. I would want to see it for sure. But I don't know who wins. Because Dern has incredible grappling. Rose has pretty good grappling too. I mean, she's not a black belt, I don't think. Is she? Let's take a look. Is Rose Namajunas a black belt? I don't think she is. She's a brown belt. That's what I thought. Yeah, she's not a black belt. But she's still, I mean, Angela Hill isn't a black belt. She's like a purple belt. So we'll see. But I don't know. I don't know. But Rose is a really good grappler, though, overall. I think people forget that she actually does have good grappling. Has she ever been submitted? One time she was submitted. When was that? Carla Esparza submitted her in The Ultimate Fighter. Oh, yeah, I remember that. I forgot about that. And then Carla Esparza beat her again. That's so wild to me. That is freaking wild. Is that the last person she fought before she fought Wiley? Yeah. Yeah, because Wiley submitted Esparza. Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to think this through. I'm trying to think. Who do I actually think would win in that fight? I'd probably lean towards Rose just because she's so unpredictable. You just never know. Like, did anybody think she was going to knock out Wiley with that head kick? Nobody saw that coming. But she knew. She knew what was going to happen that night. She had it all planned out. She's like, I am going to kick her in the head and she will fall to the ground. Yeah, I think I'm going to go. But I don't know, because what if Dern submits her? Because that's what Dern is good at. But she didn't submit Angela Hill, so I don't know. But she did. One thing that Mackenzie Dern did show is that she does have cardio in 5 rounds. Not at strawweight. In 5 rounds. In a 5-round fight, Mackenzie Dern has solid cardio. So she showed us that, and that makes a 5-round fight with whoever the title holder is in the future. I would say within the next couple years, I could probably see Dern fighting for the title. I don't think that's going to happen this year, but maybe next year, maybe 2024, 2025. I could easily see her fighting for the title. So now that she's had a 5-round main event, which it originally wasn't scheduled to be 5 rounds. It was originally scheduled for 3. So for her, yeah. I don't know. I don't know. Rose, I'm biased. I love Rose Namajunas. She surprises people. Anytime people doubt her, and I know that's what people would do. Like if Dern actually was scheduled to fight Rose Namajunas, I just know that people would probably be picking Dern. I think that would be everybody's first instinct, just because Dern has all the hype right now because she just beat Angela Hill and she got her 3rd degree on her black belt and all this stuff, and she's jacked. Like she just got jacked like overnight, it seems like. I don't remember her being that big before. I don't know. She made Angela Hill look tiny in there. So I don't know. She just got really big. I guess the divorce, I don't know. She just seems like she's way bigger than she was before. But anyways, whatever. Maybe that's where all that power came from. She got a little thicker. Got some more power on her, but yeah, I don't know. I think I'll still stick with Rose, but I wouldn't be surprised if Dern submitted her or even won by a decision. Yeah, interesting. But yeah, it was good. It was a good card. I enjoyed it. I'm not gonna lie, I was pretty excited to watch boxing after that because Devin Haney and Lomachenko fought. I guess we can talk about that for a second. I'm not a boxing expert, but yeah, I'm definitely more versed in MMA scoring, and even kickboxing I feel like is a little bit easier to score than boxing. I don't know. I feel like you have to pay such close attention in boxing to really be able to score it, especially if it's a close fight, which I would say that was a close fight. I thought Lomachenko won, just from a casual boxing fan perspective. So keep in mind, like, I am not saying that it was a robbery or anything like that, because I don't know that a robbery is the appropriate. I don't know. I thought Lomachenko won. That's what I thought. I thought if I was the judge, I would probably given it to Lomachenko. But he's so fast. That's the thing. It's sometimes so hard to see his punches because he's so fast. And Devin Haney is so much like bigger than him and longer. So I feel like it was easier to see Devin Haney's punches. But I don't know. I always love watching Southpaws box because I'm a Southpaw, like I said. So watching Lomachenko, yeah, that's cool. I think he's probably my favorite boxer to watch. Like, if I see Lomachenko is fighting, I'm going to tune in. But I really wanted to watch Devin Haney too, because I haven't really watched much of him, but I've heard a lot about him, and I've seen him in interviews and stuff, and I don't know, I just really enjoyed watching him fight. I like his style. I like how he moves. I think they're both just really, really great boxers. But yeah, I did kind of feel bad for Lomachenko because I think he thought he won that fight, and I thought he won that fight. But it is what it is. It's judges. What are you gonna do? And then I also watched Bare Knuckle. So Friday night was Bare Knuckle, and Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship is the name of the promotion. But the main event was Houston Alexander versus Jeremy Smith, and I thought it was such an interesting fight. So it was a cruiserweight fight, which that's another thing I find interesting. So I'm going to pull up the Bare Knuckle weight classes because I want to show you guys. Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship. Okay, here we go. Yeah, it's based in Philadelphia. And you know what's really interesting about Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship is the owner of Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship, David Feldman, He actually was a professional boxer. So he's a former professional boxer, and he is the owner of Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship. So I think that's pretty cool. Okay, so get this. So they've got straw weight, women's straw weight, 115 pounds, flyweight, 125. Okay, it's normal. Bantamweight, 135. Featherweight, 145. Lightweight, 155. Get this, guys. Welterweight, 165. Middleweight, 175. Light heavyweight, 185. Cruiserweight, 210. And then they have heavyweight, which has no limit. No limit at heavyweight. I love it. I love it. I love that they have 155, 165, 175, 185, 210, and then unlimited. That's great. I love it. I love the weight classes. So I watched Bare Knuckle, and it was so interesting watching Bare Knuckle Friday night, which is technical, but it's not as technical as like regular boxing. It's more brawling than boxing, but that's an art in itself, guys. Okay, when you don't have gloves on, that takes a special kind of person to get in there with no gloves on and fight. I mean, that's a dog. That's a dog fight, is what it is. So it was just so interesting watching that and watching boxing and watching UFC, just all the different techniques and different types of fighters. I also think it's so cool in Bare Knuckle how they can just like wear these cool outfits, like these boxing outfits. Like I don't know, I love it. I love the whole thing. The weigh-ins are cool. Like the women's fight, what's her name? Jade Masan Wong and Taylor Starling. I'm trying to remember their names because like UFC is easier for me to remember because I've been watching it for so long. But Bare Knuckle is new to me, so I'm trying to remember their names. I'm trying to like follow all of them on Instagram so I can like get it in my head. But I'm trying, guys. So there was a few fights that caught my attention. Obviously, Wong versus Starling. That was a great fight. If you haven't watched Bare Knuckle, the women's fights are really good. Like, I think the women's fights might be better than the men's fights in Bare Knuckle. They're good. Good fights. And they're so pretty too. Like Starling and Wong were both like really pretty and really good fighters too. Like really good boxers. It's just really cool to see. But yeah, so I'm trying to think of what the fight was that really caught my attention. Oh, Wilson versus Meyer. So Wilson really impressed me in that bout. That was really good. Cochrane versus Cutter. First round knockout. He looked like he was in a lot of pain whenever he got hit. He looked like he was in a lot of pain. He was sitting there. He was like, had his hand on his head like this. I'm like, ooh, yikes. Hopefully it didn't have like a concussion or something. But yeah, Dakota Cochrane, I was impressed. I think he used to be in the UFC. Yeah, he's been in a lot of organizations, I think. He's been in Bellator, Resurrection, Legacy Fighting Championship, Titan Fighting Championship, LFA. He been in the UFC? No, he hasn't been in the UFC, but he was on The Ultimate Fighter. He fought James Vick. Oh, wow. His first bare knuckle fight was in 2018 against Johnny Hendricks. He TKO'd Johnny Hendricks. And his second bare knuckle fight was against Chris Lieben. He beat Chris Lieben, who were both former UFC fighters. But the main event was awesome too. It was a slower paced fight, obviously. You know, they're heavier guys. It was a cruiserweight fight, so 210 pounds. Houston Alexander versus Jeremy Smith. Houston Alexander, guys, he won the fight, by the way. It was a unanimous decision. Guess how old he is? Houston Alexander is 51 years old, guys. That is insane. And he's still winning. That's crazy to me. I think he's undefeated in bare knuckle. I'm going to look him up too real quick. So he used to be in the UFC. And you know where he's from? He's from East St. Louis, which is not that far. It's like an hour from here. He's from East St. Louis. And let me tell you something. If you've never been to East St. Louis, yeah, you should know how to fight if you're in East St. Louis. You should definitely know how to fight. So it makes sense that he became a fighter, because to grow up in East St. Louis, like, yeah, you definitely gotta be tough to grow up somewhere like that. That is not for the faint of heart. He fought for UFC, Bellator, Shark Fights, RFA. You know what's also really cool is that he has like a charity. Yeah, he has a charity. He donated one of his kidneys to his oldest daughter in the year 2000. Well, that's nice of him. In February 2017, the Houston Alexander Foundation was founded to connect Houston's professional passions, MMA and hip-hop, with the local community. That is so cool. The Houston Alexander Foundation uplifts the youth through educational programs and activities to promote a more positive self-image, benefiting families and communities across America and the globe. Under Houston's vision, we can improve society through education, culture, exercise, and community. That is so dope. I didn't even realize that. This guy would be a perfect guest for my other podcast, Barbells and Bangers. Oh my gosh, that would be perfect. One day maybe I'll get him on. If he does podcasts, I don't even know. That is so dope. Yeah, and he's undefeated in bare knuckle. So he's 4-0 in bare knuckle fighting championship. He's had 36 professional MMA fights too. So 40 fights total between the two sports. I was impressed with bare knuckle Friday night. Gosh, I watched so many fights this weekend. It all just feels like one long day of watching fights. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it was a lot, but it was good. I enjoyed it. I always love watching fights, especially on the weekend, because it's like, yeah, I could have a social life and I could do things, but I'd rather, honestly, staying home and watching the fights is the ultimate weekend for me. Like, that's just sitting with my dog, chilling, maybe eating some steak, eating some good snacks, like, just, I don't know. That's what I like to do. That's how I like to hang out. And one of these days, I'll probably do a live stream, like fight companion type thing. But I'm probably gonna do it by myself. I don't know if I want to get a whole group of people and do a live stream. I don't know. I feel like that would just be very chaotic. If somebody wants to have me on their fight companion, let me know. But I don't know if I want to do a whole, I don't know. That just seems like a lot for me. Like, just keeping track of a bunch of people and trying to schedule it and arrange all that. I don't know. Just seems like a lot. Now, what would actually be really cool is if I could find like a few other female fight fans and do a fight companion. I'd be down to do that because nobody's really done that. I mean, somebody probably has that I don't know about, but I haven't really seen it. So to do like an all-female fight companion, okay, actually I'm talking myself into it now. I'm talking myself into it. That sounds like a actually really cool idea. So if you guys want me to do an all-female fight companion, I'll try to hunt down some female fight fans in the local area, and we'll try to make it happen. But I might need to get a couple more microphones because, yeah, I only have room for two. Or I could do lapel mics. I could get some lapel mics and do it. I'll have to think that through logistically. You guys know how I roll. I'm independent. I'm indie, baby. And you know why? Because nobody can tell me what to do. That's why. Nobody can tell me what to say. Nobody can tell me what to do. And I would like to keep it that way for as long as possible. I don't know. Maybe I could do a fight companion for if there was like a big bare knuckle card or PFL. Maybe I could do PFL fight companions. Like if there's like Francis Ngannou's debut, whenever that is. That might be a while though. Oh yeah, I didn't even talk about that. I forgot. Francis Ngannou signed with PFL. Oh, and you want to hear something really entertaining? Here's the first one. What is your problem with me? This is to Dana White. This is Francis Ngannou tweeting. He didn't tag Dana White, but this is who he's talking about. What is your problem with me? 1, I completed my contract, was a free agent, and chose to walk away. You didn't release me. 2, I hate taking risks. Oh, that's a question. I hate taking risks? That's why I defended my title to fulfill my contract with no ACL or MCL? Yeah, that's a good point. Francis did defend the title with the really messed up knee. 3, the reason I fought 3 times in 3 years is because you wanted to control my deal and signs a new one and freeze me out. I owe these guys 3 fights a year. Isn't that what you say? What happened? I always asked for and never said no to any fight in the 3 years. I'm finally getting paid and respected and have a deal that's fair and equal for all parties. Why are you so against me being free and happy? That's another good question. If you really want that John Jones fight to happen, reach out to Pete Murray, PFL, whenever, wherever. Who really is scared? John, me, or you? Make up your mind. Oh, because he showed the clip of Dana White talking about, this was after Ngannou knocked out Stipe. Dana was talking about John Jones, and he's like, oh, if I was John Jones, I'd be thinking about moving down to middleweight. Like, or something like that, like saying John Jones should be scared of Francis. Oh, that's savage. That is savage. That is so funny. I'm so happy for Francis. So glad he got that deal done. We should all be happy for Francis. Why are people still talking trash about Francis? What did he do to anybody? I don't get it. And John Jones didn't fight for like 3 years. So what are we talking about inactivity for? Francis fought probably just as much as any other title holder. I mean, there are some champions that are more active than others, but most champions, once they become champ, like they don't fight nearly as much as they did before they were champ. A lot of times, like Volkanovski, how many times a year does he fight? Once or twice, maybe at the most. So yeah, I mean, come on. Oh, Dana White said PFL wants to raise $300 million from the Middle East to buy Bellator. And then he also said he has no beef with PFL before completely roasting their genius business. These headlines are hilarious. I don't know. I don't know if PFL is actually going to buy Bellator. I don't know. Who cares? I don't really care. I don't know. I feel like PFL could probably be just fine without buying Bellator. I think, at least I hope. I hope this situation just helps fighters get paid more and get better benefits and things like that. Not just in the UFC, in all organizations. Like, I hope this just makes a statement. And Francis isn't obviously a huge advocate for the fighters, and that's why he did this. So I hope that this trend continues, but you also have to think, like, where is PFL going to get this money from to pay Francis and to pay all these fighters? So they gotta sell tickets, they gotta get views. So we gotta help. We gotta spread the word. We gotta promote PFL too. And that's why I still will talk about UFC. Obviously, UFC is the gold standard in MMA, in my opinion. If you've made it to the UFC, in my opinion, you have made it to the elite level of MMA. But these other organizations, they're creeping up. They're not there yet, but they're creeping in. They're trying to get on the UFC's level. And what they need to do is they just need to get the best talent in their organizations, and that's how you do it. But you also have to have well-matched fights too. You can't just have, one guy that has like a average record or a losing record versus a guy who's an absolute monster. Like, you can't have a bunch of mismatched fights, because people just don't really like to see that. That's why people like to watch the UFC, because there's a lot of very competitive fights. So I hope that they can attract that good talent to PFL. And there are a lot of good fighters in PFL already. And I've been trying to kind of do more research on it and get to know who these fighters are, because I think it's important. I asked somebody that's covering the sport of MMA not to just focus on the UFC, to focus on the other organizations too. And that's why I want to cover local promotions and cover PFL and bare knuckle boxing and all this stuff, because I want to showcase not just the fighters who are in the UFC, but also the other fighters who are in other organizations. PFL obviously is something that is looking to compete with the UFC. So And they've got some really good talent. And even Dana admitted he was wrong to let go of Shane Burgos. Shane Burgos went to PFL. So you see these fighters going to PFL and they're good. They're good fighters. That's the thing. They're not bums. There's not a lot of bums going to PFL. Let's just say that. So, and really no fighter is a bum, but I know people use that term to describe fighters that are like not very good. But I don't really like that term. But I know people use it. So it's like, you try it. You go get in there and see if you would be a bum. You probably would. So stop calling professional fighters bums. Okay. But there are no bums in PFL, UFC, LFA even. Like, there's no bums in those organizations. Just so you guys know. You can say that all you want, but you go get in the octagon or the ring and you try it and see how it would work out for you. Probably not very well. Oh, I can't stand when people talk trash about fight. I'm sorry. I'll stop. But it just drives me nuts. But it looks like they have an event scheduled for June 8th. Oh, that's soon. Let's see. That's a Thursday. Okay. So now my Thursdays are gone. So Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I will be watching fights. Oh, Brendan Loughnane is fighting. I don't know a lot of these names, but I'm going to get to know them. I'm going to do some research before this fight so I actually know who's... Oh, Marlon Moraes is fighting. Nice. Okay, so I do know some of these people. I am really going to do my best to get to know these fighters and learn more about them because looking at their records, actually pretty impressive. A lot of these. Like, there's one guy in here that's 10-0. He's fighting Marlon Moraes. Marlon Moraes, obviously, very impressive career in the UFC. So that is featherweights and light heavyweights. And then June 16th is heavyweights and women's featherweights. Oh, so they kind of do it similar to, like, the Ultimate Fighter, I guess, where they have a couple divisions at a time that are fighting. This is very interesting. It's very different from the UFC. So I'm going to have to really learn about this. Aspen Ladd is fighting Maurice Green. Is he the crochet boss? I think that's the crochet boss. Okay, so June. I need to pay attention to PFL. Got it. So I got to make sure I know the rules. Got to make sure that I kind of brush up on who the fighters are and learn more about that. And I'm gonna try to do the same thing with Bare Knuckle too, but I think I'm gonna focus primarily on UFC, PFL, and of course, I just love watching Bare Knuckle, so of course I'm gonna talk about it, but it's not gonna be like the main focus of my podcast. The main focus can be UFC and PFL, and maybe a little bit of LFA, a little bit of bare knuckle boxing, and then some local promotions too. Like I said, I'm going to the kickboxing tournament this Saturday in St. Louis. So if you're in St. Louis, you can go and actually watch it in person, or I think you can watch it online too. If there's a link to watch it online, I will share it on my Facebook, and hopefully I can figure out a way to share it on my Instagram. I'll find it if there's a way to watch it without the what's it called? Being there live. Gosh, my brain is like shutting down, and I still have to record another podcast after this. Oh my God. My friend Patrick Vega is fighting. We actually used to work together at a recording studio years ago. Like literally years ago. And then out of nowhere, I saw him fighting in Shamrock, which if you don't know Shamrock Fighting Championship, Joaquin Buckley used to be in Shamrock. Just saying. And so it's a big promotion here in St. Louis, but this is not Shamrock. This is kickboxing. So Shamrock has kickboxing too, but they also have MMA. So they have pro and amateur fights. They have MMA, kickboxing. But this, I think I'm more excited about this though than I would be for going to a Shamrock fight. I don't know, not throwing any shade, but like I love watching kickboxing. It's so fun to watch. And Patrick is such a good kickboxer. So he's been doing really well. I think he's 7-0 in kickboxing. And I remember when I first watched him fight, he beat somebody that I actually also know with a body, I think it was a liver shot, which is just horrendous. If you've never been hit with a body shot, Oh my God, it hurts so bad. So he just like shut him down, basically. And I talked to Patrick a little bit after the fight, and I was like, dude, when did you start? I'm like, when did you start fighting? I'm like, I didn't even know you fought. He's like, yeah, I mean, I just kind of started. I'm like, oh, dang, okay. I'm telling you guys, you got to watch this fight. And I think the guy that he's fighting is pretty good too. I don't really know much about his opponent in the main event. I'll probably try to look up, a little bit more information on both of them. But I think the guy he's fighting is really, really terrifying too. So it should be a good fight. It should be a good fight. I'm excited. So this promotion that I'm going to be watching on Saturday, so it's IKF Midwest, but it's called the Stand Up Fight Series. So for those of you guys that want to watch it, Stand Up Fight Series is what it's called. There's another fighter that I've been told a lot about is Daniel Boyer, who's fighting in Stand Up Fight Series. I have not watched. Actually, I don't know if I've watched his fights. I probably have, because I've been to several local shows. So usually I've seen a lot of these guys fight at least once. And I just might not remember the name. But I've heard a lot about Daniel Boyer from several people. I went to a comedy show, and the opening comedian told me about him because I told him I was into MMA. He's like, oh, you should look up my friend Daniel Boyer. He fights. And I'm like, okay. And then I got invited to this kickboxing tournament, and then I saw he was on the card. I'm like, what a small... St. Louis is so small. But I thought that was really cool, so I'm excited to check out those fights. I haven't really done a lot of research on the other fighters, but that's what I plan to do this week is kind of, see who is fighting and what their records are and all that good stuff. So that way I'm a little bit more prepared when I go to watch the fights, and then I'll be recapping the fights. I don't really want to do predictions for local fights because it's like I can't watch a lot of their film, and I don't know. It's just I don't really want to do predictions for local shows. I don't even like doing predictions for UFC because it's like I don't know. I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball, okay? I don't know who's going to win, and I don't gamble. So I'm not doing it to, like, bet on the fights. And I feel like if I did bet on fights, that would be kind of weird because I'm covering the sport. I don't know. It just seems weird to me. Like, if I would... I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but... Yeah, but I'm going to recap the fights. I'm going to tell you guys all about it. So I'm excited. It'll be fun. And I'm excited to watch Patrick fight. And I'm excited to just be introduced to a bunch of new local fighters that I might not have heard of before. So that's always cool. And that's why I love going to local shows. Because you never know who you're going to discover when you go to a smaller local show like that. You never know. Like, you could be about to see the next Conor McGregor or something. Seriously, like, you never know. I mean, look at Joaquin Buckley. Look what he's done in the UFC. So... I don't know. You never know, guys. You never know. I love fighting. I don't like personally fighting. I mean, I like sparring. And I was thinking about it, I'm like, I want to start sparring again soon. So I'm going to have to start training my butt off a little bit more. I might start training kickboxing and stuff, maybe some jiu-jitsu in the near future. Not right this second, but like soon I want to start training again. I want to start sparring because I miss it. It's really fun, and I just... I feel like it's a good release of, like, stress and anger, frustration. I need an outlet for my frustration. I don't know. I feel like sparring kind of humbles you in a way, and it really does improve your mental toughness, because I remember when I was sparring, it was like if somebody called me a name or at the time I was working in insurance, if some customer was rude to me, I just let it roll off my shoulder. I'm like, I've been punched in the face 42 times this week, ma'am. I don't really care what you say to me. I kind of miss that. Like, it made a lot of things seem a lot easier because it's like, well, at least I'm not getting punched in the face right now. At least that's not happening, So I miss it. I miss sparring. It was fun. It was really fun. I do want to compete too eventually. If I compete in anything, I don't know. I don't know if it'll be boxing or kickboxing. I don't know. Maybe I'll start doing jiu-jitsu and do some jiu-jitsu competition eventually. I'm not talking anytime soon, guys, by the way. So don't get excited. I'm saying in the future I do want to, like, compete in something, because I do like competing. It's fun. And not anything like high stakes, you know. I'm not trying to go to the UFC. I just want to compete and have some fun. Like doing it for fun, not to try to like kill someone, you know. Like, I'm not going to take it that seriously, because that's not like my end goal in my life, is to be a fighter. Like, that's not really what I want to do. Like, I have lupus. Like, I don't think that would be a good idea for me. But I do want to compete in something at some point, because I think it's just something like a bucket list thing for me that I really want to do, that I think would be cool. And I think if I were to compete in some type of martial art, I think it would really help me understand fighting even more than I already do. And I think it would, I don't know. That's why I'm glad that I sparred, for a little while, because it really did give me a new respect for fighters and what they do and what they go through. When you get punched in the face, you're just like, oh, yeah, that sucks. That sucks getting punched in the face. I have a lot of respect for these guys. So, yeah. But anyways, I'm going to wrap this episode up now. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to the first episode of BreBre Talks MMA. I really appreciate it. I'm excited to see where this goes. I'm just going to let it evolve. I'm not going to try to force anything. And I know there's more I can do. I know there's little things that I can probably do to make it better, but I'm just going to kind of let it evolve and grow and see what happens with it. I'm really excited. And I want to keep growing Barbells and Bangers too, because I really love what I'm doing with that podcast. And I really, really love MMA. So I'm glad I now have an outlet just for MMA. And then I can just focus on fitness, health, and having good conversations. I'm still going to do guest episodes on Barbells and Bangers. And maybe I'll do guest episodes on this podcast too. Who knows? We'll see. We'll see how it evolves. We'll see where it goes. But I'm just going to leave it. I'm going to keep it loosey-goosey right now. I'm just going to see what happens and keep it open. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching or listening or however you're consuming this. But I will see you guys next week. And yeah, I'm excited. So, bye.